sport lovers across the globe. This is your oh my god, this is your show. New season to sports. My name is Lalija Adebowale. You can see my voice is cracked. I've been begging Sheyi, Olawale, and Kachi to help me anchor today. None of them is agreed to anchor for me today. So just admit me the way I am today. As many mistakes I'm going to make today, just smile, love me like you always do, and hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Um, you can see I have on my screen today this young fella. We've been talking about whether West Ham actually did have a better season than Arsenal in the course of the Premier League. We'll be discussing a whole lot of things. Novak 23, Iga Swiatek, and shout out to Sheyi. He caught Swiatek winning the French Open in the women version of it and the date. Before I introduce my guests, okay, Sheyi, let's start with you before we introduce our major guest, which is the kid on the screen right now. Sheyi, Kachi, and Olali, you guys can introduce yourself. Sheyi, go first.
Yeah, hello, sport fan. Welcome to this week's show, and what a great weekend of football, and talking about the Champions League final. Man City completing the treble for the first time in their history. Pep Guardiola doing it twice, if I'm right, and also seeing Inter Milan putting up a fantastic show on the night was probably the highlight of the weekend. And also the return of Teofimo Lopez in the boxing ring, being a champion again in the junior welterweight division last night. Welcome to the show. I'm sure Olawale and Kachi will be introducing themselves right away.
All right, go ahead, Kachi.
Yeah, sports fans, I always like to start by saying it's a pleasure being a part of this amazing group of guys and discussing all things sports with you. Suffice to say, congratulations to the fans, the owners, management, and when I say fans, most especially my pastor, Pastor Kingsley Okonkwo, who is a diehard Manchester City fan. They finally got what they spent almost $1.3 billion to achieve, which is not to say it's a bad thing. I personally think Arsenal had a better season than West Ham, but that is left for you guys. I'm probably saying that so that Debo doesn't lose what is left of his voice. But beyond that, Miami team struggling in all forms of sports. The Heat struggling in NBA, the Florida Panthers struggling in the Stanley Cup playoff. Hard takes once again for Miami. All this we will discuss. Stay tuned for a good one.
All right, perfect. Olali.
Yeah, good day, sporting fans around the world. Welcome to the show. It's been raining all day here in Abuja. I have two set of fans that I want to call out. I don't know if this is the right time to do it or probably when we get to the footballing side.
Do it now.
I want to call out United fans and I want to call out the Arsenal fans for two different reasons. And both are still similar. I will probably wait till we get to the football segments to do that. Congratulations to Novak Djokovic. Congratulations to I should do it now.
Do it now.
I should do it now. Good.
Yes.
United fans, you guys have to chill. You need to calm down. City winning the treble is not your problem. City is not responsible for where you are today. If you think City spending 1.2 billion or 1.5 billion dollars in order to win the Champions League is the reason why United are so bad, you are wrong. Football has never been a sport of playing level game. The American sport is where you can get
level playing field.
Teams competing at a playing level ground to an extent. In the last 30 years, the NFL that they've recorded like 15. They've had 15 different winners. 15 different teams have won the Super Bowl in the NFL. In the last 30 years, we have 13 teams have won in it in the NBA. But football has never been. It has never been about parity. Bayern Munich have dominated. What do you call it? The German League for only
Germany.
God knows. Celtics and Rangers have dominated the Scottish Premier League for only God knows. If Roman didn't buy, what do you call it, Chelsea in 2003,
Probably it's going to be a domination of us now.
It would have still
Yeah.
been Manchester
So-
United and Arsenal.
like I said, football has never been about. So, Man U fans, you need to calm down. If you think City have won this Champions League before they've cheated, because they have cheated, they have won 115 charges against them. Their treble is not as what will I say? Your own treble is more organic or whatever. Just calm
Clean.
down. Focus on your club. Let City enjoy this thing. Your nagging, for me, is making it feel like you guys wants to be where City are today. You guys should go and cheat.
Absolutely.
Let City enjoy their
Absolutely.
time. Over to Arsenal fans, guys. Yesterday on Twitter, I noticed a lot of Arsenal fans like, wow, City winning the treble. United doesn't have anything to boost up again. Nothing for them. Their coach is a blah blah blah. All his achievement has been defeated, guys. If there is any football club that needs to be probably feel ashamed or feel a bit dejected today by City winning the Champions League, my guy, is Arsenal. Because you know why? You guys have not won the Champions League. Whatever City achieved yesterday, they are only repeating what United have done before. But for you guys, we have how many teams that have won the Champions League from England? 6. Oh, really? Can you name them? Oh, Liverpool, yes. Oh, United.
Nottingham Forest,
Forest,
Aston Villa.
Chelsea,
Villa,
and Chelsea. Yeah, we lost Alali there for a second. And before we go into the French Open and the NBA Finals preview, I would like us to watch this kid. This kid is amazing. Yeah, I just needed to show that for a sec. This kid is a diehard Western fan, and it was showing how amazing Western has been in the course of the season. Of course, there's always one person that will be hit by a stray bullet, and that team is on the other part of North London. They just needed to mention their name. I'm not going to mention their name out of respect for Harry Kane. So let's jump straight into the world of tennis right now. We had this amazing preview or a little bit of snippet into what is expected at the French Open. Nadal is not around. We know the greatest player right now in the history of tennis, by virtue of the 23 titles, is going to be too difficult for anybody to defeat. And he did not let us down. He defeated the 22-year-olds, the 20-year-olds convincingly. He did it against Carlos Alcaraz and did it against Kasper in the final. I'm not going to energize him too much because we've given him so much flowers on this show over the years, and it's no doubt. There's no doubt about it again. Even a disbeliever like me, I'm still sacrosanct anyways. Unapologetically a Roger Federer fan. I still feel Roger is the best, but no matter how much, it's like me being a Ronaldo fan and trying to take Messi's flower away from me. Novak is the most glorious tennis player in terms of dexterity, in terms of mentality, in terms of finesse, in terms of ruggedity, all bunch into one. Everybody has this swag about them. When we talk about Nadal, we talk about ruggedity, not so much finesse. When we talk about Roger, we talk about finesse. We talk about that swagger, But Novak is like an embodiment of all those things into one player. I don't know if you guys agree with me. And Ragukachi, I'm going to be starting with you. What do you think about this? And with these amazing feats, is the story of who is the best right now, is it dead officially?
Uh, Thanks, Debo, for that. I think that's a pretty tricky and quite an interesting question, set of questions. First things first, need to send a big congratulations to Novak, who I may say, I must say, is a diehard AC Milan fan. I have to put that out there. But more interestingly, congratulations, especially with what he went through in 2022, starting from the Aussie Open. We've never for once doubted his mental resilience. I believe we've always said, out of all the biggest figureheads in male tennis, Novak is probably the most mentally, or probably the strongest mentally. And we have seen how in series, in games where we thought it was over with, he came back times without number. A lot of people, with what happened with his entry case in Australia, would have entered a downward spiral. That hasn't
Yeah.
been the case with Novak. He's always had something to prove. He's always played with a chip on his back. So, well, it will be beating a dead horse if I go on and on about how mentally strong he is and all that. But to your next question on whether this ends the question, the debate about who is the greatest, I think you have to look at it from two angles. If it's from the angles of those who count the rings, then obviously, without a doubt, he is undoubtedly the best because he holds the record for having won the most championship in the male side of tennis with 23.
Tennis.
However, if you look at the overall impact that a single player would have or that players have had in the past, then you can also argue that yes, he may be top three, but not necessarily number one
The
on the list.
greatest.
We've seen people who transcended, who made the game better, who made the game approachable to a much more global audience. I don't think Novak did that. Yes, he can hold his own, or he still holds his own, but in terms of overall impact on the game of tennis, you probably won't give it to Novak. You probably also won't give it to Rafael Nadal, to even be very, very objective. You might have to start looking at the likes of Pete Sampras, who was probably the first global superstar tennis had. Then you have to look at Roger Federer
Oh,
and FedEx. And
hold on a sec. John McEnroe.
he was not a global superstar. John McEnroe, for as much as he was not he did not transcend Europe and America. I'm talking of a genuine global superstar in tennis. You might have to start looking at. In fact, if you want to go so back and argue it, you can probably say Atarash, because he probably had one of the most iconic tennis racket adverts that went around the world. But for me, as a young boy who wasn't even a teenager, probably the first tennis player name I knew was Pete Sampras and Navratilova in the women's side of football. So based on impact, overall impact, probably not. And that's not saying he's not top five. But when you really have to count what matters, which is the titles, I mean, the debate ended as soon as he won the Roland Garros for the third time, I believe.
Okay, and Shay, what about you? Is the argument over, or you are sitting on the fence?
I think that there's a lot to talk about being the best in tennis when you talk about all these guys, and I think it's very safe for me at the moment to say let us wait a couple of years more. I think Roger Federer happened to be one of the greats, if not the greatest. And I believe if you also look at the age of the last four dominant male tennis players
Tennis
talking
players.
about Andy Murray, Joko, Nadal, and Federer during the let me say during the
their
season
peak.
that we had four guys still on the block
Mhm.
and being able to win Grand Slams. But if you check the age of these guys, you'll notice that Roger Federer is actually like 4 years ahead of maybe the next person to him,
First
which
one.
is Nadal. And if you actually look at that, you will definitely know that fatigue and some kind of natural
By that time,
tiredness,
by that
yes, will
time, by
come
the time it was
against it will come against Federer. But the only thing that they actually gave Roger the longevity in the game is the way he plays it. I think you did justice to that earlier, Debo. The way he
Yeah.
applies skill and let me say experience, and the way he approached game, he actually used more of his skills than his physicality, and that also helped him to to be dominant over the years. Also, Roger actually won quite a lot of Grand Slams in the earlier part of his year. I think at the age of 22, thereabout, his first Grand Slam. And the
Yeah.
first 4 years, he was winning close to three in a year, thereabout. So for me, for now, I think I'll still stick to Roger Federer. But like I said, I'll give it a couple of years more because I know Novak is 36 now. It doesn't look the way Roger Federer looks at the age of 36. So
36.
let's see what happens in a couple of years. And it is also important for me to say the next set of the tennis male players seems to be playing like like their female counterpart. I have not seen someone that's ready to usurp
To take the
Novak
mantle. Yeah.
Novak and chase him around the block the way they chased Roger Federer. That's why I still think Roger is still the best because he transcends generations. He played against the Sampras era and
Andrea
he
Gassi.
gained his own dominance and actually welcomed the likes of Nadal, Joko, and Murray, and was still winning while they were at their peak. That
All
for
right.
me, I still think he's still the best.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. And of course, I would like to take Olali's view about this as well. Olali, if you're with us, we're talking about does the win of Novak, the 23rd Grand Slam, and the of course the elephant in the room, who is the best ever in the male
Yeah.
tennis player.
Okay. Let me. Can you hear me now?
yeah,
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead,
Can you hear me
please.
clearly? Okay.
absolutely.
Yes, we
So
can hear you.
let me
Go
say
ahead.
this personally. I think I'm more of a Pete Sampras and Federer fans, and I think for a long period of time, I was convinced that Roger Federer probably was the best or the greatest of all time. But at this stage, in an individual sport, it is very difficult to argue against the numbers. Consider the fact that, in as much as we might want to argue that probably, considering the fact that Novak Djokovic significant amount of these, what do you call it, of his titles, why Federer is still as it was still active. It's very hard at this stage. I think one just have to consider the fact that is the probably greatest of all time at this stage. He has 123. I think I'm not. I think probably personally, I think he's going to get to 26 or 28 before he slows down.
Yeah,
I still
yeah,
this year I
yeah.
still see him
I think
winning
so
one.
too.
And consider the fact that he has missed he missed the last US Open. I think we need to take that into cognizance.
Yeah,
So I think the numbers
and they
are very
also
difficult to argue against. And I think he's the first player to have won more than 3 Grand Slams at 3 of each of the Grand Slams at the French, what do you call it? French Open,
wow.
Australian Open,
Absolutely.
Wimbledon Open, and US Open. He has won more than he has won at least 3. in each of those surfaces, and no other player has ever done that. So I think the numbers are just too difficult to argue against at this stage. Yeah.
All right, perfect. And of course, like I said at the start of the show, we need to give Ure and EPP to Sheyi for standing by his girlfriend in Gaswatek. She won actually against Carolina. Wasn't a straight set. I think 7-6, 6-2 or 2-6. And Kachi, correct me if I'm wrong, and 7-5. I believe.
Two sets to one, so it was
2 sets to 1. Yeah, so
6-2, 5-7, 6-4, I believe.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so she won, and congratulations to her. We just hope, for the sake of female tennis, that someone will be able to do justice to the female tennis. Just please be consistent, please, for crying out loud. You remember that kid, Radakuna, that won? I think she won the Wimbledon Open, the Canadian British. She has changed coaches. She won that title at least 5 or 6 times. I see her every time on Daily Mail these days, and I'm like, yo, you've changed coach, you've changed your coach again. Okay, let's see what happens next. Anyways, to the NBA final, and to the story of another Serbian who happens to be the best, currently the best in the world right now. And don't forget, I really don't like this guy because he does not look like a basketballer. I feel basketballers, they have the swag, you know. Be like AD. AD is swagless.
He's not American.
For me, even Giannis has swag. Joel Embiid, the Cameroonian has swag. Please just show us, give us a little bit of that. You know, that those kind of things that we want. But
this guy is from Eastern Europe. You need to understand.
I know you will support him, but of course, he's you know what we call him? We call him the farmer. But he is by far the best player, and he's doing wonderfully well. Basketball comes easy for him, and they swept the Lakers, and they are playing, and they've been dominant all through the season. Don't forget that the number 1 seed in the West. They played very well. I don't know, for one reason or the other, probably because, and this is the argument, because Michael Jordan and LeBron never won MVP 3 times in a row. That's why Nikola was not given the MVP for this year. I don't know about the arguments, but of course, if you look at it critically, and the number of games that Joel missed, as opposed to how dominant Nikola was all through the season, there could be an argument for that. Kachi, looking at the game tomorrow, which is going to be Denver versus many undrafted guys from the Miami Heat. And kudos to the Miami Heat. Players like Caleb Martins, these are kind of guys that J. Cole, the rapper, had to call to get into NBA. You know, Vincenzo, and a whole lot of them. Especially have done a wonderful job. So them gets to this stage itself is a big feat, if you ask me. They've gone through the play, defeated the number 1 seed, you know, and done wonderfully well for themselves. Are we expecting the series to be over tomorrow?
I think so, Dave. But I mean, that has always been my prediction. I said Denver wins this in 5 games. How they've done it kind of differs from what I expected, but it's still, I mean, several ways to skin a cat or skin a rat, like they would say. It's a testament to how efficient the Nuggets have been playing to their strength as against listening to the outside noise, and people like Kachi, Olawale, Nick Wright, Stephen A. on how they should play. They've blocked out the external noise, kept themselves together, and discovered very dependable role players in KCP, in Michael Porter Jr., who has also commendably come back from his slump last year, and Aaron Gordon, who we know is a very decent center, but now his post-up game and 3-point shooting has also gone up a notch.
Really improved.
Big commendation, a big shout out to Miami for at least making this respectable, because it could have ended in a sweep let's not forget that the one game Miami won, they felt, I mean, that only happened because of the missed 3-point shot and the rebound that Bam Adebayo recovered. But beyond that, nobody would say this has been an undeserved victory. We probably didn't see it because, and the only reason we did not see it is because we all want blockbuster NBA Finals matchup, not because we knew those teams we wanted were the better team. Everybody wants a Real Madrid versus Barcelona Champions League final. Everybody wants the Lakers versus Celtics finals. You know, that kind of thing. Forgetting whether or not considering whether those teams are the best. The Denver Nuggets have been the best by and large all through this season. And tomorrow we will see the coronation of a new champion. And it will be very well deserved. I do want to say this, however, that I totally agree that the voting journalists went into an MVP fatigue, number one, and they just got tired of voting the same player again for the third time. And also that bias, the same way nobody wants to involve LeBron James in the GOAT conversation, is the same way nobody wants to bring other people to a stratosphere that the great Michael Jordan never achieved. Because the very minute you make someone a three-peat MVP, then obviously you can't start calling Michael Jordan the greatest of all time again. So all that, I believe, played a factor. I'm not saying Embiid did not deserve to MVP, probably deserved to be MVP last year much more than he did to be MVP this year. But I mean, voters fatigue sets in, definitely.
All right, Olali, I know you're big, and give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. You're a big Nikola Jokic fan, and Nikola was smokes. For the first draft, as a matter of fact, this guy was he's not supposed to be in the NBA.
He was drafted in the middle of a commercial break.
Wow, like. And you look at him these days, I'm like, oh, yo, this guy. You look at his old pictures, he's as big as my son, like in terms of body mass. Like it's very, very big. Like, oh wow, and that's those are the kind of things that you see. Whereas he has transcended, he has transcended all and defied all odds to be at the position that he is right now, and he's about to make history. Denver has never won the NBA championship. This is going to be the first time they're going to be winning it. And they are winning it with this Serbian guy, which is marvelous. Anyways, we'll look forward to that crowning, that coronation of Nikola Jokic. And of course, once he does that, you have to put him in the same figure like players like Tim Duncan, Dick Nowitzki, and the rest of the guys. Like, okay, yo, this guy is a Hall of Famer, definitely. No doubt about it, and he would definitely have a statue lifted for him or erected for him at Denver, maybe while he's playing, if he continue this way. From there, we move straight to the world of football, where we have a whole lot of things. Pretty much the UEFA Champions League and the team of the season. We'll basically seeing the team of the season according to Oracle Kachi. Let's start with Kachi. Oracle Kachi's team of the season. I know most people might not also agree with Kachi because they're scared of Kachi. But I definitely, I will always argue against Kachi. Even when I know he's right. I'll say argue against him. Excuse me, guys. I'll say argue against Kachi. So this is Kachi's team of the season. Excuse me, guys.
If I take it over from there, Debo, just to let you catch your breath. Yes, this is my team of the season, and I had a criteria, to really be honest. And for anyone who can quickly decipher it, you probably would see the criteria immediately. I thought I got my team of the season primarily from the 4 teams that made the semifinals of the Champions League. Now, before I go into the details, I need to give a special shout out to Kvaratskhelia, Victor Osimhen, and a few other players, but primarily Kvaratskhelia, who I thought had a phenomenal season, but not enough to make my. If I probably made my team a team of 18, he will probably be there. But I made it a team of 16. My coach definitely is Pep Guardiola. That is missing here. The goalkeeper for me, without a doubt, is Thibaut Courtois. Kept Real Madrid in games they didn't have a business being in throughout this season. Especially the first leg of the semi-final at the Bernabeu. They left there thinking they stood a chance primarily because of Thibaut Courtois. That game should have been wrapped up in the first leg, although City ended up handling their business. For right back, it's a no-brainer for me. Kyle Walker was heads and shoulders above every other right back I think I saw playing the Champions League this season. I have to commendably mention Francesco Acerbi, the Inter Milan centre back. Maybe not for what he did throughout the course of the Champions League season, but primarily because of what he did in the final yesterday. Between him and Brozovic, I thought they played a phenomenal game. But I have to first say, the first time it popped up to me was in the quarterfinals against Benfica. I literally stood and said, who is this guy? I've known him, but he played lights out in both legs against Benfica. So big shout out to Acerbi for that. Akanji, what a phenomenal purchase. My wife watched the Champions League final with me. First time I would watch the Champions League final with family in about 5 years. I watched it with my wife. She saw this Akanji guy, and the next thing she said was, does he play for the Super Eagles? And I said, no, unfortunately. This Akanji is Swiss. An amazing buy. Poise on the ball, and he showed throughout. And it's the left back pairing for me, not because it was heads and shoulders, but I just couldn't think of anyone that blew me away. Big shout out to Camavinga for playing out of position and holding that left back position. But I thought Nathan Ake had that. My midfield pairing, without a doubt, was De Bruyne, probably the best player over the course of the year. Then I had Di Marco. I also had I'm trying to remember my list now. Then I had Rodri, who was the MVP yesterday. We had a whole interesting pre-production call and analysis about Rodri, but I won't go into all that. But I thought Rodri, almost like a Busquets, and it's also very funny how every Pep Guardiola team has a Rodri-like player, from Philipp Lahm in Bayern Munich to Serge Busquets, or Yaya Toure, to Kimmich, now to Rodri. My front three, it was a toss-up between Vinicius Junior and Kvaratskhelia, I have to say, but I'm going with Vinicius because he was very decisive. Silva, what else do you need to say? Silva was the ticking bomb in that Manchester City team, and the first player to win, I think he's the first, I'm not sure. No, first player since Cristiano Ronaldo in 2007, 2008 to be outright Golden Boot winner in the Premier League and Golden Boot winner in the Champions League, Erling Haaland. What an amazing first year this guy has had. I can't wait to see how else it does. My bench, I had, I believe, I can't remember who my goalkeeper is now, but for my bench, I had Osimhen, I believe. I also had Gundogan on my bench. I had Rafael Leao. No, my goalkeeper, without a doubt, was Mike Maignan. Maignan was the glue that kept a mid AC Milan team and made them into a team that doesn't concede a lot of goals. So that really is my team.
So you had Gundogan, you have Rafael Leao, you had Ruben Diaz,
for cornerback, Gundogan, and Mike Maignan for my bench.
All right,
team of the year for me.
Yeah, that's Kachi's team of the year. Not too much to argue about. I think Olawale's team of the year is the one that is a little bit interesting. It's a little bit interesting because okay, let's just show our list team of the year, and I'll allow you to speak to it, Kachi and Shay. Shay, I want you to dissect Olawale's team of the year. I I see some names there that I'm like, okay, especially
The goalkeeper.
Stones, Harawa, Tesegan,
Where's the goalkeeper?
Ajama Musela, Ajama Musela as well. Like, yo, Olawale is looking through the eyes of Europe and not just the Champions League. I want to believe. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. This is just across Europe because Tesegan was the best goalkeeper in terms of clean sheet kept. Baraha was the standing guy for them for Barcelona as well. John Stones resurrected 6 months towards the end of the season. I wonder what he's doing there. Okay, Kim was phenomenal across the season, and Jamal Mosela. I wonder what he's doing there as well. Kachi, maybe I should start with you since Olawale is not here to speak for himself.
Okay. I think you kind of like once you qualified what his line of thought was, which Olawale will join us soon and let us know. If the line of thought was based on the top 5 leagues in Europe and not necessarily the European competition, which is the Champions League or the Europa League,
Olawale, are
then
you with us?
you can start
Olawale,
to
Yes,
give me a thumbs up if you're
I'm
with
back.
us.
I'm back.
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
I'm showing you up for your team, and your team is the
Interesting. It's interesting to say the least.
how do they call that thing? Black sheep. Your team is the black sheep of the family. Players like Testegan, Araha, Jamal Mosela, Kimia, Kava, understandably so. But in your defense, I said your line of thought was probably the top 5, the top leagues across Europe, not necessarily the UEFA Champions League team of the season. Am I correct?
What you said we should come up with our European team of the season.
Yeah,
So European team of
yeah,
the season has to do with the league,
yeah.
both performance in the league
So I'm
and in
correct.
the Champions League or the Europa League. So you are correct. So Testegan considered only 20 goals. I think that should be the least among the top 5 leagues in Europe.
Mhm.
Barcelona probably won this league title more on as much as Lewandowski and the attacking guys caused a lot of goals. I think they did very well defensively,
Defensively.
conceding only 20 goals in 38 games. And Araha was and Testega those were 2 guys who I think contributed a lot to Barcelona achieving this. So their performance in the Champions League and the Europa League might be probably unimpressive, but
Mhm.
if you win the La Liga ahead, comfortably ahead of a Real Madrid team that got to the Champions League semi-final, then I think those two justify. And
Your pick.
another thing you guys should note is the as good as Vinicius has been this year, if there is one player he has struggled against
Araha.
all season in is Arahao. So I think I have a reason why he's in that squad as a right back. Uh, the center back is King. What do you call it?
John
John
Stones and
Stones
King.
and King. If you look at the Napoli team, as much as Osimhen is scoring the goals, the Russian, what do you call it, wizard, which most Nigerians doesn't want to hear his name now. Kara is doing it in the midfield.
Kvaratskhelia.
Kim,
He's from Georgia.
Kim, okay, he's from Georgia, not Russia. Sorry.
Yeah,
So
he's from
Kim
Georgia.
was one of the what do you call it? It was the main guy in defense, marshalling their
Mhm,
defense.
mhm.
Surprisingly, I think he joined them was in at the beginning of the season
Just
or two
last year.
seasons
Yeah.
ago.
But yeah, just last season. No,
Yeah,
that's last season after
That's last
Koulibaly
year.
left.
That's last year. Yeah.
yeah. So it was very impressive throughout, and they were very and also in the Champions League on to the latter stages. Nathan Ake, yeah, surprisingly, he played a lot of games this year due to 2 reasons: Cancelo leaving at the middle of the season, and the inability of what do you call it, Emery Laporte to stay fit for the major part of the season, and it was very impressive. Guardiola said
Yeah.
something yesterday when they asked him on CBS Sports about what is different between his current team now, what they have, and what they have in the past. I don't know whether I've actually discussed this with guys on this show, but I remember one of my friends, we've actually had this discussion. The difference between this Guardiola team, especially this formation is playing now, and the ones he had in the past. Like he clearly said yesterday that he has 4 proper guys who could defend. Man City are playing 4 center backs across the back 4. So the margin for error from people like Cancelo,
Okay.
as good as he is attacking wise, I personally I think it was the reason why they lost against Madrid last year. He could have done better with that Madrid equalizer. He
Of
lacks a
course.
bit of
Yeah.
awareness. So I think Ake is one of the reasons why that Man City team looks very, very strong, especially his ability to defend high flying wingers from that left side. In the midfield,
Yeah.
yeah, when I did my Premier League team of the season, I went for Casemiro ahead of Rodri. But since it's an European team of the season, Premier League plus Champions League, I think Rodri edged this one. By the time you put the two competition, what do you call it, in total, um, very diligent at what he does, simple.
Mhm.
His game is not for everybody to
Admire.
it's not for any Tom Dick and Harry to appreciate.
To
Just like
analyze. Yeah.
a Michael, just like a Michael Carey couldn't play up to how many is it 15 games for the English national team. You have to keep asking yourself at that peak period why he couldn't have. So I think these are kind of players that their roles are very specific and they just do it. And I think one other thing that we need to look at Rodri is this season he has added a little bit of goals to his game, even though he still does major part of that sitting in front of the back 3 or back 4, whichever way. But he has added a bit of more goals to his game compared to what you have in previous years. To complement him in midfield, in as much as Bayern probably had what you could call an ordinary season, I think Musiala still proves that he is a guy for the future, present and the future. He's probably one of the bright things that happens to Bayern. What do you call it this season? Yeah, even though Dortmund had probably handed over the league to them, I still think it was Munich player of the season. And
Yeah.
as much as Jude Bellingham was highly, as in was really hyped this season, he had more
Yeah.
goals and assists than Jude
Uh-huh.
Bellingham. So I think uh,
It
pairing
was
him with
just a
Kevin De
punch.
Bruyne, of course,
He's the best
yeah,
player in
Kevin De
the
Bruyne, of
go
course.
ahead.
Just look at exactly. No matter how you want to look at the overall, it's just probably. I don't think there's any player I can choose ahead of him. For the front three, for the front three, Kylian Mbappe, uh, 29. What do you call it?
Goals and assists.
Okay, Debo, let me
Yeah.
29 goals
League
this
goals.
season. League
Yeah.
goals, yeah, fantastic return. Out
Four
of the
time winning
goals, I look,
the highest goal scorer in France. The
yeah,
fourth
although
straight time.
Champions League wise, they probably crashed out a little bit earlier than expected. But again, I think he has done enough for this season to end that spot on the right. Uh,
Mhm.
my Georgia friend that Nigerians don't want to listen to. In as much as probably I would have wanted to see him to probably win the Italian player of the
Player of the
season,
year.
I can hardly argue against this guy. I think in the early part of the season, he wasn't just playing just like a left winger alone. He was playing like a complete playmaker. Most of their attacking threats comes
Came
down
through from
that
him.
left side of the attack, and he's very intelligent. He drifts into the middle to even play more like a number 10. Uh, the latter part of the season, probably the last 10 games, by not have been that convincing. But I think if Osimhen cannot make this team, I think he should make the team playing from that left side.
Yeah.
Alan, what else can you say? Eh,
This is
36 goals
goals.
in the Premier League, 36 goals in the Premier League. Yeah, 36 in
Yeah,
the Premier
I
League.
left
I think he had
56
12 in the
overall.
Champions League. 56 overall. You can't argue against the numbers, even though probably the performance in the bigger games were not really that convincing. But again, how do you argue against a guy that scored 56 goals in a season? So that was my 11.
All right, perfect. Thank you. I'm just about to showcase. She is top 11 in Europe. She had some interesting thing as well. She did not go for Nathan Ake, thankfully enough, because I'm tired of looking at Nathan Ake's face. I went with Bastoni. She give us an insight into this.
Okay, yeah. Let me just start with this. I think just like Olawale also said, this team is totally the European team. My criteria simply the top five leagues in the Europe and the Champions League. And reason why I actually put into consideration European Conference League and the Europa League into my consideration. But the winners happen to be teams that actually faltered in the league. So, which means they actually concentrated on a particular cup than the other. And that's why I was unable to pick the likes of Bono, which I think is an honorable mention when it comes to the goalkeeping department. But unfortunately, was cut out here. So for me, looking at the Champions League and the European League totally, I go with Courtois as my goalkeeper.
Nobody even gave Ederson any shots. That's not nice.
Ederson on my bench actually, but we've covered the bench part here. So Courtois for me, and the right back, I go with Joshua Kimmich. I decided to change some players from their position in this team because I know they have the capacity to still perform in that particular position. Araujo will be a centre back, and Stones. Stones for me because of the way he was able to adapt to Pep's tinkling.
Style,
Changing from the centre back position.
The guy that played 6 months.
Played in the midfield and also in the right back in the final. It was, I think his versatility is actually putting him on another pedal when it comes to defenders in the Premier League at the moment. Bastoni, I think Bastoni is one defender that hardly puts the wrong foot. And
I agree with you.
I saw that throughout the season, and I think this guy should actually be in my team. DiMarco, I think honorable mention, but I think Bastoni is just one of those guys that ensure that and if you notice the way Inter plays with that back three, it is. I think it's only Asabi that is a proper center back. Because they have this former Man U player. They have Damien at the right side of the front of the back three. I actually wanted to mention this in the last edition last week that if there's any way Inter was going to cause trouble for Man City, it should have been through their wing backs.
The right side,
Yes, through their wing backs. I'm almost trying to analyze the Champions League final right now. I think the moment they brought in Lukaku and they tried to do what they should have done from the beginning of the game, they started getting chances. And I felt that should have been what they're supposed to start with. Get the crosses into the box. I think the City defenders were quite jittery. Even the goalkeeper was jittery throughout the match yesterday. But anyway, I think it's Man City's time, and they lifted the cup. So let me go back to my team.
Are you disgruntled Manchester United fan?
Anyway, it's their time. Like Olawale said, let them enjoy it. So I'll back my team. I'm playing a 4-3-3 double pivot, and I'll have Rodri and Jude Bellingham behind Kevin De Bruyne. Rodri, for me, in fact, for the official player of the season, Champions League season, is actually Rodri. That was announced, and
Wow.
you can that says a lot about the player. I think the two games they've played, that Man City played in the Champions League, and they've seen tough opposition. Rodri actually won those
Rodri
games,
handled it for them.
and I think that's enough for him to just be ahead of any other person in that position.
Ahead of
Jude-
Casemiro.
Yes. And any other person. Jude Bellingham, for me, I'm sure this will most likely be one of the decisions that looks somehow to majority of you. But I think the
No, I agree
decision
with
the
you.
decision for the decision of Dortmund coach to bench Jude on the last day cost them the fight
Definitely the
the
league.
Bundesliga. I felt if he started, they there's most likely they should have won that game and lifted the Bundesliga. And like I said, I actually looked at the top 5 league. For me, I think Dortmund and Bayern won the league together. That's my belief. So Kevin De Bruyne plays in front of those two, and I have Mbappe. Of course, if Mbappe was playing in another team, maybe Real Madrid, they'll probably win the Champions League, even beat Man City.
Man City.
So Mbappe is just the guy that you can separate from the rest of the PSG team. He's in a world of his own. Now Messi has left. I think it's now King Mbappe in PSG.
He has always been King Mbappe. Who is Messi? He has always been King Mbappe.
Obviously, like we all said, you can't argue with the numbers. Haaland definitely up top there. I think his goal is a goal from Cancelo's pass. Sometimes last year,
Against Dortmund. Yeah.
won the best goal of the season in the Champions League, and obviously highest goal in the league, highest goal scorer in the Champions League. He gets that. On the right side, I had to move Kvaratskhelia to the right side because he's young, he's versatile. Like Olawale said, he can actually drift around because of his pace, his skill. I like to put him there. Also, he's officially the young player of the year for Champions League. Also, so
okay, but guys, I have a question for you though.
Deserves a place in it.
Yeah.
No, Debo, wait. Debo, please, before you go on.
Yeah.
You are nearly criticizing my team. So my team is probably not too much different from this team. So
no, I wasn't criticizing. I wasn't criticizing. No,
my team.
No, I wasn't. As a matter of fact, I supported you. I wasn't criticizing your team. Wasn't a
I think it was the Barcelona choice.
It was. I saw Barcelona. I'm like, okay, Olawale has a different line of thought. This is not UEFA Champions League base per se. It's across Europe itself. And in your defense, I said I'm not scared of anybody. I can attack you like a lion right in front of you. Yeah. I have one question for you guys. If Inter Milan had won the Champions League yesterday, would you have included Nico Barella in your team? Olawale, I'm going to start with you. Would that have changed anything?
If Inter Milan probably won yesterday, probably no.
Like, yeah.
I don't think that would have probably. I think the only player I would probably have included in that team yesterday, probably if they have won yesterday, was Onana. And this is the reason why. If you look, City were G3, yes, they struggle with their passing game. But Onana's ability to control ball within his box his ability to pick up the right pass, I think, exposed a bit of weakness within the City game, or a
Pressing game.
weakness around you pressing a pressing game, and which makes it very difficult. Like Sheyi said, unfortunately, they did not utilize, because if you, I don't know who started on the left side of the left as their left wing back yesterday. The guy had a lot of balls. Onana was able to pick him up on multiple occasions,
Multiple
but
occasions.
he was not able to deliver
Marco.
crosses into the box until the German guy Gozin came in the second half with Lukaku. So I think if there was any player that would have made my team yesterday, and if you are a United fan, and if you on if for the past 1 or 2 weeks, if you've been seeing people tweeting about the reason why David De Gea shouldn't be starting for Manchester United again, Andres Onana performance yesterday gives you what probably you want from your a
From a
modern day
goalkeeper.
goalkeeper.
Yeah.
What you want from a modern day
Alright.
goalkeeper.
Okay, Kachi, what about you? Will I change anything for you if they won? Or you're going with Alali? It's going to be on Johnson Nana.
I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but I think I wanted to give a honorary shout out to Onana. Or he was supposed to, if it was an 18-man team I mentioned, I would have included Kavra and Onana, but I didn't want to have more than two goalkeepers there. But to your question, I don't think it would have changed anything. What it would have meant was that someone like Pastoni would have had an otherworldly performance because he was on the precipice of my team. But I just didn't think, because I wanted to go with a 4-3-3 formation. I didn't want to go with that back three. I needed to have a left back because Mitanake had such an amazing thing. But the short answer is no.
No.
No, it wouldn't have changed anything. I think this team would have competed very well if it was a real team for me.
Okay, all right, perfect. Shay, what about you? Any difference if your boy, Nico Barella probably won the Champions League yesterday?
Yeah, I think I support you completely. I actually missed out on Barella because I already had my top 11, and because of the criteria and all that.
Yeah.
I think Barella actually deserves to be mentioned. And like you said, had it been they won the Champions League yesterday, could have been a different thing entirely.
Yeah.
But I still think the four Man City players in my team will still be there. Barella will probably just push one person out of that team.
Out
But
of the
for me,
thing.
I think Barella probably would have entered if Inter won the Champions League.
Champions League. All right, perfect. Thank you very much for that. Shay, I'm going to stay with you. Don't go anywhere. Don't mute yourself yet. What is next for Pep Guardiola? We know Pep always run once he achieve whatever it is that he wants to achieve. He did that at Barcelona. When he started feeling that is from Jose Mourinho and Real Madrid, he ran away from. When he went to Germany and he could not win that elusive Champions League, he ran away from Germany and came to Manchester City. And now City already won the treble. There's little or nothing for him left to win again. City probably might not win. They'll keep dominating. I'm sorry. I'm not saying City will keep dominating. I'm sorry to say that. Without Guardiola, City will not dominate. And I keep telling everybody that cares to listen, it's because of Guardiola. All these fantastic things that happen to City. Give the same thing to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and City will struggle to get to top four. I keep saying it. It sounds like I'm a madman, but I'm not. I know what I'm saying because of Guardiola. So what's next for Guardiola? Do you think he's going to run away again and probably go to another established club like PSG, or go to Italy, go to Juventus, and he knows he's going to win the league, and just give them that Guardiola magic again in Italy?
I don't think Guardiola is going to leave yet. Anyway, you can't go to Juventus. Juventus is a risky club. Today it is overturned, and tomorrow they come with another type of ban. And also PSG seems not to have the type of project that City do have at the moment. So for me, I think Pep is going to stay in City for maybe
Oh
another
wow.
Two
three
more years.
years thereabouts.
2 more
He
years.
has won the treble, fantastic. He's won, I think, 5 Premier League cups in
7 years.
6 or 7 years. But I still think he's still there are still other things for him to achieve in the Premier League.
Like what?
He can win. He can win
He,
the
he
Premier
has
League.
dominated. He has dominated, guys. He has won 4 out of the last 5. He has won Carabao Cup like his family's cup. He has won the FA Cup. Now he has
He
won
has
the
not.
Champions League.
He has not won it 3 times in a row. I
He
think
won
he's
the Premier League 3 times in a row. He's the first person
so
doing it after Ferguson. So what else? Kiletuku. Kiletuku,
need
man.
need to
The
Kiletuku, and
win.
this is
sextuple,
Kiletuku.
the sextuple remains. I
Yeah,
think if I just chip in for Sheyi there, and
yeah.
even though you are losing your voice, you are becoming too assertive at the ball.
Not
But
not
if I
really.
chip, go on, Sheyi.
Yeah, not really. But I still think there's still a lot for him to achieve. You need to understand something, Debo. I think the new set of coaches coming on in the Premier League are going to push Guardiola next season. I can assure you that. There's something
Okay.
about about teams when they've achieved what they want to achieve or they've seen the top.
Yeah.
There's always that zenith, and they start to fall back.
And
Compa-
that's when
that,
Guardiola is run. What they
that
hit
is
that zenith, you
yes,
run away from there.
that is exactly now the challenge for Guardiola. Let us see what happens to him next season. How he's going to pick up this team and make them do almost the same thing they've done this
Same
season.
thing.
I think
Okay.
Gundogan is probably leaving Man City. That's a
In my
very big
conviction.
piece in that team. But Pep is
There's
Pep.
more.
Let us see how he
There's money.
transforms the team
There's
and
money.
makes
There's
him
money. There's
and
money.
transition the team.
They will
There
go
Obviously,
and
is
buy.
money and there is
They will go and buy
culture now.
another
There
one.
is money and there is culture.
There's money and culture. They've done what Arsenal
yes,
cannot achieve since 1899. They've done it. They've
we
done
will
something that
we will
sports
find
have not
we will
achieved
find out next
in
season.
their life.
We'll
Anyways,
find out
Kachi,
next
what about
season.
you? What about you? What do you think is going to be the next move of Pep Guardiola?
Is that me or Lale?
Yeah, you, Kachi.
I kind of agree with Sheyi in this, but I think it's more 2 years instead of 3 years. Especially because there are new trophies. He's not going to leave now that the vision is loud. He's going to try and see if he can add, because there's that sextuple which he achieved with Barca that
Barcelona.
I believe he wants to achieve here. There's the Carabao Cup, no, there's the Charity Shield, the Premier League, the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, the Club World Cup, and the
Champion.
Super Cup. If we even add the Champions League again, that makes it
And
7.
Brazil.
But I believe it's important he gets the Club World Cup and the Super Cup and add it to their trophy cabinet. For me, I think
Wow.
his next challenge is to stay here for 2 more years and see if he can groom an in-house replacement.
Replacement.
Arteta would have been the ideal replacement if Arteta stayed, but that won't be the case here. Ultimately, he has to take another year off, and we will start considering Pep Guardiola going to the Spanish national team. I think it's about time he goes to the Spanish national team. 2 years.
Okay. What about your Lali? What's next for Guardiola?
I think the options in terms of the clubs now, I think is a bit very limited. Do I see Guardiola going back to Barcelona? It is possible, but again, that depends.
He doesn't want to go to. He doesn't want to go to Barca.
Yeah. I think that depends on the performance of Xavi and some other things that happens in the nearest future. And I think he's smart enough not to go there now. I think his options are limited. That's why I still see him in City for a foreseeable future. In as much as he has won the treble, I think Guardiola. I think the most difficult part of it is what they've achieved now, winning the Champions League for the first time. I think they will be more relaxed playing in the competition in the next 2-3 years. And looking at the landscape around Europe, I have a bad news for you guys. I think
They may repeat.
They might repeat it because Barcelona obviously doesn't. They are not up to that level yet. There are still some little weakness there about. I think the core of the Real Madrid team are aging, and the new guys, I still don't think they are as talented as City. Bayern Munich, it's remains to be seen what they can come up with because everything looks a bit of disarray now. Who else in the Premier League except Liverpool? So I think the goal is going to be to have another Champions League title within the next 2 seasons.
There's Chelsea.
Win 2 more.
There's Chelsea.
So as much as I can see, there's no Chelsea. Forget it. There's no Chelsea. So I see in the Premier League in the foreseeable future, and I think the goal is going to probably to win 2 more Premier League titles, at least, and at least the Champions League title, which looks very, very doable. Except something drastically happened in Europe.
All right, perfect. Just ready to introduce Baba's team of the season. I wonder what Bukayo Saka is doing there. Di Lorenzo is playing as his right back. Gundogan is in the team. Kimia is battling Akoji in the center of the defense. Jude Bellingham, Kvaratskhelia, Haaland, Netanyahu as left back. Courtois is goalkeeper as well. But I wonder what Bukayo Saka is doing anywhere there. That's it. That's the only boost I have against this team. But he's better. Yeah, the better options. Yeah, I'm not saying he doesn't have a good season, but don't forget. For me, as much as I don't really like Gabriel Martinelli, I'll still choose Gabriel Martinelli any day, anytime above Bukayo Saka. I love Bukayo Saka.
Come on, Debo. Come on.
I don't like.
You are a pain fan. Yeah, that is coming from a place of pain. That is from a place of objectivity.
No. Honestly, I'll take Martinelli ahead of Saka. For me personally, I don't like Martinelli. I don't like Martinelli because for last season, yeah, I'll take Gabriel Martinelli.
Come on, man.
Honestly.
Come on.
Honestly, I start to be corrected, anyways. But
I'm correcting you now, sir, Mr. Host. I'm correcting you that for last season, there is no way Martinelli was more decisive in Europe and in the Premier League as much as Saka was.
But to break it down, to let you know,
it's really not all about the goals. It's really not all about the goals. Saka is not in 9. I'm going to tell you this.
Yeah.
Who did the general Arsenal fan base blame most for them losing this league, even though it was not his fault?
Granit Xhaka.
No, come on. You know it's Bukayo Saka.
Saka
got the vitriol of those stupid racist Arsenal fans who know nothing better than the color of their jersey.
Okay. Maybe most Arsenal fans, but for me, the person that lost this league for Arsenal was Granit Xhaka, with his antic at Anfield. Without that antic at Anfield that day, Arsenal will have won at Anfield. And if Arsenal has won at Anfield, they will have built that momentum. I'm not talking about Chelsea, but it's a big if. It's like that if of Arsenal not losing. Arsenal always give everybody the treble. If we did not lose against Leeds United in 1999, Manchester United would not have won the Champions League. They would not have won that treble. If Boca did not lose that penalty in the semi-finals against Manchester United, they would not have won the FA Cup. And if Patrick Vieira did not behave like an endless chicken against Real
and that is why, and Debo.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Olale, go ahead.
And that's why there's always content. I think that's why there's always contest to every achievement.
Every argument.
And that's why for me at times when you want to argue the best player, sometimes you just have to look at there's contest to everything. A lot of this could have
to everything.
Because of any argument.
But talking about the greatest player in the history. Yeah, talking about the greatest player, supposed greatest player. He's moving to Inter Miami. He left £1 billion on the table to move to Miami. This guy has been telling us lies all across Europe right now that he was not happy at PSG or Paris. His children were not happy, but he was happy enough to take £1.2 million every week and try to put himself in contention for one footballer of the year. Anyways, he has moved to Inter Miami. A marvelous deal. He's doing the same thing that David Beckham did, and I'm sorry for my cry voice, guys. Taking a chunk from Adidas being a sponsor, Apple being a sponsor, official sponsor of the league as well. He's going to be taking some amount of money from every ticket sold, and at the end of his contract with the MLS, he will have the right to own an MLS team. So this might not look like £1 billion right now, but in the future, it's probably worth more than £1 billion. Because David Beckham, I think he bought Beckham. Sorry, I said Beckham. Beckham bought Inter Miami, I think, for £150 million. But as of today, with Messi joining, the value of the club has shot for over £1 billion right now. So it's a very good one for Messi, and of course, we wish him well at Inter Miami. Don't forget, Inter Miami a couple of weeks ago sacked David Beckham's mate Phil Neville. He and his brother were sacked at Valencia as well. All they know how to do is talk in the studio.
I'm sure Messi was part of this sack.
Absolutely.
Yeah, probably. So he's going to be owning Inter Miami right now. They were the last on their conference table as well. And Sergio Aguero showed him the league table, and like, oh, yo, we'll get to the playoffs next year. But it's never easy in the MLS. That's the truth. Ask players like Thierry Henry, Didier Drogba, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Ask them. It's never easy in the MLS. Maybe because of the training, maybe because of the time, because of the weather. I don't know. But yo, you're going to be seeing us at one of the MLS games next season, by the grace of God. And N'Golo Kante and Karim Benzema has moved to Saudi Arabia right now. Declan Rice and Moses Saisedo could be moving to Arsenal. Either of the two could be moving to Arsenal. Report says Declan Rice has had his mindset up to go to Arsenal. He rejected the £200,000 per week contract with West Ham because he wants to leave. We don't know where he's going to go to. Maybe it's going to be a Champions League team in Chelsea FC or Stamford Bridge. Or let's go to the Manchester United or Arsenal. But like we did behind the scenes, and this we need to bring out to people because this is a sanitizing show as well. We don't just do the analysis, we need to educate people about the game itself. And I'm talking about no other person than Rodri. I know you guys did a little bit of analysis into it, but there needs to be appreciation of this kind of players. Sergio Busquets is an underrated player. I saw someone, and precisely, Layo, I'm looking at you, said Pep Guardiola was an average player. He was never an average player. He was a monster. But because of what Pep did in his days, people don't appreciate Pep. So people don't appreciate players like Sergio Busquets and Rodri. And I want to put it out to you guys, and take as much time as you want. We've already overshot our time, so take as much as time we want to do this analysis. What is a better fit for a Guardiola philosophy, Rodri or Sergio Busquets? And who do you want me to start with? Picking order from shortest to the tallest. Olawale, I'm going to start with you because I'm the shortest. So I'm going to start with Olawale.
That's
okay. And what do you call it? Rodri. Yeah, I think the Rodri rule. I think it's a kind of its contribution is a kind of let me say underappreciated, probably because of the flashes of the Man City team. Like, you have a lot of things you want to concentrate on. You want the Kevin De Bruyne passes, the way they move the ball, those lovely goals, and I think people pay less attention to the way to his contribution on the team, like passing from the back, beating the opponent press. One of the reasons those things looks very easy for City to do is because of Rodri. Because one thing about Rodri is press resistance on its own. He picked the right passes. He positioned himself very well. I think that's similar to Sergio Busquets too. And the kind of vibes you think Rodri is getting now is similar to the way people perceive Sergio Busquets. Like, okay, he only played in that extraordinary Barcelona team. You pay attention to what Messi does, what Luis Suarez does, even the Iniesta or the Xavi of this world. The last person you want to pay attention to is Rodri. Is Sergio Busquets.
Sergio Busquets.
As much as it looks very simple, at times, one thing I found out in football, and especially with Toni Kroos, is that doing the simplest thing at times in football is probably the most difficult thing for a lot of people. I think if Rodri was in the same position where Partey was against West Ham, Arsenal would not consider penalty and they will have gone ahead to win the game. The last thing Rodri will do in that position is to try to hide another player. Is the last, and that's why I tell people he is never going to get carried away. It's very easy for you to get carried away and that road doesn't want you to get carried away, and that is why, for me, as much as like I said, like because the team they play.
So for you, is this Sergio or Rodri for a Pep philosophy?
I think I prefer. I think Rodri looks is a bit faster and a little bit more mobile than Sergio Busquets, and that's why I would take Rodri out of Sergio Busquets.
Oh, Sergio. Okay. All right. Kachi, what about you?
It's a lot difficult than I thought it would be, because as I heard Olawale speak, I kept, going over, both players, just their style of play and everything, who they had playing with them and all that. To be honest, both have been blessed to play, number one, in a Pep system, number two, with two marauding, I don't want to call them central midfielders, but two marauding midfielders in KDB, Gundogan, and you can interchange them between Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, flanking that right, or even before they moved Sterling as well. But all that being said, I also wanted to say I did not, that my answer is not based on the recency bias, because I had the pleasure of watching Sergio Busquets in his heydays as well. But I think what edges it in the favor of Rodri, beyond doing the simple things, because Rodri reminds me so much of a certain Garba Lawal. I say it over and over again. It's just because the Nigerian national team then was underachieving. But what he did was he was a coach's delight, very coachable, and he did the simple things it came natural to him. He never tried to play above his skill set, even though he has a whole repertoire of skill set. We're seeing amazing goals, first against Bayern Munich, then in the finals of the Champions League, which is probably one edge he has over Busquets. I don't think Busquets has that many goals. His mobility, ability to also recover. One thing I've not seen Rodri do, and maybe I'm wrong, one thing I haven't seen him do is actually slide into tackles, simply because he was always well placed. His ability to see potentially where the ball will be coming in his side of the pitch and being at the right place, right time, is impeccable. So because of the fact that he has more goals to his games than Busquets, because of the fact that he doesn't seem to put a foot wrong, because there are some goals Barca concede that you would know it's really because Busquets was overambitious and left what he was doing. Busquets had that tendency of enjoying what was happening in front of him, that when the counter comes, kind of overwhelmed him. I've not seen Rodri do that. That is really what will give Rodri the edge. However, we've not seen, and that's really for me where you can argue Busquets' case is Busquets was able to replicate his Barca abilities and style of play and effectiveness in the Spanish national team. Maybe with Rodri still has some time to do that, but he has not enjoyed as much positional success with the Spanish national team as Busquets did. But let's see what 5 years time from now if this conversation will change. But under a Pep coach team, without a doubt, is Rodri for me.
Okay. All right. Shay, what about you? Is it going to be Busquets or Rodri? And if yes, why?
Yeah, I think I'll definitely go with the gang. We had this discussion about Rodri and Busquets earlier. Uh, meanwhile, I'll rather use a Sunday Lise as a comparison to Rodri than
No,
Gabala.
no, no, not in terms of position. I'm telling you, in terms of this is what you need to
Discipline.
do it effectively, not position. I wasn't comparing them in terms of position simply because Garba was every coach, national team's delight because they could tell him this is your role and they knew there would be no frills about it. He would do it. We didn't enjoy it.
The
I did
simple
not
thing.
enjoy Garbala wow as a young boy watching him. But because my knowledge of the game has changed and I haven't been on the coaching side of things, I saw why he was important to many national team coaches. So
I,
yes, go
I,
to your
I
point.
actually, yeah, I actually agree with you because I think Garba Lawa also was deployed from the left wing into
To
that
the
role
center midfield.
and
Yeah.
to do that simple things and do it very well. Um, however, I think when it comes to the skill, the natural qualities that comes with that role, Sunday Olise in the days
Mhm,
actually delivered that in terms of discipline and mopping up and also moving forward and
mhm,
affecting the attacking sense of the whole game. And I think
mhm,
that's what Rodri actually brings into a Guardiola team. That's what edges Busquets. I think Busquets d- normally does the mopping up, the defensive, the simple passes playing behind the likes of Javi and Iniesta maybe also affected us seeing Busquets in another form in that role. And I think that is what Rodri was able to do. Rodri was able to even attack when you see Gordogan dropped just
mhm.
behind him. So for me, I think Rodri is just better suited for that because I think he equally can play the way Busquets plays, but he brings something additional into the game rather than the
Very good.
Busquets type of player. So for me, that's why I'll go with a Rodri.
Okay.
I just thought of something I would like to add based on what Sheyi said. Rodri, because the Spanish league is more technical than the English Premier League, whether we want to admit it or not. Rodri would have thrived with his technical prowess and ability in Spain. And I think Busquets may struggle with
In
the
the
physical nature of the English Premier League, which is that edge. Rodri is physical and tactical, probably the edge he has over Busquets constantly.
Anyways, for me, I would disagree with you guys. It's going to be Sergio Busquets for me. And awareness, in terms of awareness, Sergio Busquets is top notch. There's no one, I've not seen anyone I can actually compare to him. You guys mentioned Tony Cruz. Maybe Tony Cruz would be the closest to in terms of awareness. And doing the simple things, making the simple things, difficult things look easy. He does it better than Rodri. The way he backs, he plays with his back to the defense. Sometimes, yeah, his back. No, his face to the defense, backing the opposition guys. He does it so perfectly well, and I feel for the Guardiola role and positional sense, I think he's just a little bit higher than Rodri, and that's why I would choose him. You guys made a very valid point. Rodri score goals, but the job itself is not to score goals. That job is to make the life of the guys in front of him easier. and Sergio Busquets any day, anytime, always do that better than Rodri. And that's why I think I'm taking Sergio above Rodri. With that being said, these are two excellent players, and guys, you need to learn, watch these guys speak. These are talented analysts. We are not just here just for the sake of opinion. That's why you don't see some people here again. So it's about the natural talent. It's about a good analysis of the game and learning, playing, coaching the game. And that's what you get with us every weekend. And if you like this show, please like, share, and subscribe. Till we see you again next week. My name is Oladeja Adeboale, and it's still the best sporting show. And this show is proudly sponsored by Bukezo Glams, being shown on Quiz Talk TV, and of course on Band Radio School, the #1 internet radio in the whole of North America. Till we see you again next week. Bye, guys, and have a wonderful sporting week.